What's up, YouTube? How's everyone doing this lovely day? This is your boy Reg in the building. Took me months in the making, but we're gonna finally talk about the final chapter in the Jim Morrison Doors, 1971's LA Women. Whew! I have not heard this album in years. I forgot how much this album slapped and stuff like that. Just listen to the Chamberlain right now. Just listen to that funky groove, which I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. Now, this was the last album they've done together. Well, technically not together because post Morrison, they done two more albums and stuff like that. But I'm gonna talk about that 2021, so stay tuned on that. I'm sorry, but this song just slaps. I'm sorry. So the two singles this album was released with was "Love Her Madly" and "Riders on the Storm." And interesting enough, this was the first album that was not produced by Paulie Rothchild because, which I'm going to talk about that, it was actually co-produced by their longtime sound engineer, Bruce Botnick. And so Bruce Botnick, he also done work for like the Beach Boys. You know, he's done work for Eddie Money. Rest in peace to Eddie Money, by the way. You know, he done some work with Kenny Loggins in his '82 album High Adventure. So yeah, he's pretty known and stuff like that. So after the release of Morrison Hotel, the Doors, you know, they were still blacklisted pretty much. Even though Morrison Hotel was a comeback from like the Soft Parade and to an extent Waiting for the Sun, it really wasn't like anything to take them away from their controversy and whatnot. So, and around this time too, the band was going after Elektra Records because the Elektra wanted to release a compilation album, their first compilation album, 13, on Christmas, but they didn't really tell the band. And a lot of the images that they had, to promote it, like in the booklet, it had a younger Morrison. That's the case with the Absolutely Live album that came out in 72. Not 72, 1970, excuse me. Well, I meant 1970, but I didn't want y'all to think I was talking about 1972, but this is not a grammar lesson, so let's get it. Alright, so pretty much with this central controversy, you know, they were still going through, you know, their like personnel issues because Morrison was still drinking a lot more. He was still heavy on the drugs and whatnot. And Paulie Rothchild, you know, he got kind of fed up. He got kind of fed up by their lack of input and stuff like that. Especially when they were recording "Love Her Madly," which I'm going to talk about that. He called it, and I quote, cocktail music. So after Rothschild left, pretty much, and it's kind of crazy too because he was still going through a lot because, ironically, which this is an album I'm going to talk about next month, he was recovering from the death of Janis Joplin. Because you guys should know Joplin, I want to say she died a couple of months before Morrison and whatnot, and he had to work with Joplin for the Pearl album, which is an album I do have in my collection. I'm going to talk about that album before the year's over. I'm just going to let y'all know right now. And so with Bruce in present, you know, the Doors pretty much got under influence to just jam out, you know, just go back to what they were doing back, like before they got a record deal, just jam and whatnot. Because everyone should know that the Doors has a very rich history when it comes to blues. And I have to say, this is like the most bluesiest album, in my opinion. Like, yeah, you had like the first album. Well, the first album, it was bluesy, but it had its doses of psychedelia too. Whereas this album is just strictly blues influence and shit like that, you know? So yeah, that's just one thing I have to know. And another transitional thing to say about this album was Morrison was pretty much recording the majority of his vocals in the bathroom doorway. And Loki, I have to say this: like recording in the bathroom or doing music in the bathroom, if you guys are like music head engineers, take advantage of that because you'll be surprised at how many acoustics can come and whatnot, how your voice would sound and shit like that. So, yeah, man. And so another thing I have to say, this is actually the first Doors album where it definitely utilized more with the bass players. And yo, you had Jerry Sheff, who was known for being Elvis Presley's. He was known for being Elvis Presley's bassist, and you had rhythm guitar, Mac Beno to do some additional backing and whatnot. So with all the overdubbing, it definitely laid out more of a raw sound. So yeah, man, very very dope album. As you can see, this is like the picture with like Morrison in beard and everything like that. Around this time, he was definitely gaining a lot of weight, but he was losing his weight too around this era. He was definitely like losing his weight around this era too. So yeah. And the song that's playing in the background is Love of Madly. So okay, just text me the Zoom link one more time and I got you. Okay. So yeah, and this is actually the 40th anniversary re-released version, and it has like two bonus tracks too. So yeah, man. And one thing I loved about these remastered versions when they come to these out, they give you a little backstory about how the album was created. Just what they thought about the album years ago. You have pictures of them working on the album. Yeah, man. Alright, so the original version of this album, I want to say it has about 10 songs. And since it's the bonus edition, I'm only going to pretty much talk about one song in particular that kind of got my attention. So yeah, track number one, The Chamberlain. In my opinion, the Doors never really get a lot of credit by like definitely adding like a little funkiness to their music. And it was like towards like the latter period, they were definitely experiencing more with like funk like in their music and whatnot, especially in the track Peace Frog off the Morrison Hotel album and stuff like that. Okay, there's my notes. I was about to say, where are my notes at? Alright, and from what I looked up about this track, Changeling is supposed to have been like a mythical creature who basically like taking the identity of a human baby, and it's generally considered an outcast, which Morrison was influenced by this after he saw the student film called Changeling. And so he wrote the lyrics in 68, did not really record it until 70, and 1971 it was finally put on the album. So, just right from the get-go, you can just see the change in sound. Originally, the band wanted this song to be the first single, but the Elektra Records president, Jack Holzman, he pretty much said that Love and Madly, which, Love and Madly, I'm gonna get into that, I'm definitely get into that. And so, there's also the non-album B-side called You Need Me, which is also the bonus track off this album too. And yeah, man, this is definitely a very dope joint. Even this is like Jim Morrison's favorite track off this album, as reported when he said, "I hate to spook anybody, but this is my favorite number. Play your ass off, boy," unquote. Yeah, man, very dope song. I love I pretty much love John's guitar sound is definitely on this one. So yeah, dope track. Track number two, Love and Madly. So this is definitely written by Robbie about his relationship with his wife at that time, and commercially this is actually one of the Doors' most successful singles. And at the same time, I like this song. It's a cool song, but it's not like among my favorites. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I do feel like it's a bit too not commercial for Doors, but a bit too like radio friendly for the Doors. Which, again, it's the Doors. It's the Doors. You know, they're always doing a lot of stellar stuff. You know what I'm saying? So very cool joint. Track number three, "Been Down So Long." Well, excuse me. Well, I've been down so goddamn long. Excuse me. Yeah, but I guess you can't really put "goddamn" in the song title in '71, but one of the most underrated Doors tracks, period. Robbie's guitar again stole the show. Very bluesy. The title "Been Down So Long" was inspired by Richard Farina's 1966 novel "Been Down So Long It Looks Like Up to Me," and so pretty much the reason why I felt like he was inspired by this was because the book but the book was pretty much talking about how one is always harassed by the higher ups authorities. And if you look at the Doors, if you look at like the Doors like history, they always have hassles with the police and stuff like that too. So definitely saw how nice it correlates with the message of this album and stuff like that. So yeah, man. Track number four, "Cars Hiss by My Window." Um, this track was like a bluesy rock song. Um, it's pretty much just talking about just an argument with one lover and stuff like that. Allegedly, this was written about his girl at the time, Pamela, but like it's not really been 100% proven. So yeah, this song was okay, not really one of my faves. However, "L.A. Women," Lord have mercy, this "L.A. Women," one of my all-time favorite tracks from this, my favorite track from the album, and my favorite song from the Doors. Possibly my favorite song from the Doors. Let me get some water right quick. Yeah, I gotta do this whole second half of this review again because I thought my camera picked up, but as usual, it didn't. Alright, so "L.A. Women." "L.A. Women" is pretty much the next track from the Doors. That's like my favorite track off this album. One thing I loved about this track was just the way I always felt like it was pretty much Jim Morrison's magnum opus, as a performer, in my opinion. It just "L.A. Women" is supposed to pretty much like represent like his love for like the women in LA, of course. But it's just like the little things about this track that really caught my attention. Like for one, I love like the bridge where like the band quickly fades and you hear like the John's drumming like dancing and you hear oh shit. Damn, okay, what was I about to say? What's his boy's name? Robbie's guitar definitely doing this thing. And then you hear Morrison just say Mr. Mojo Rising. And you know, that's like pretty much an anagram for his name. Pretty much it was like an anagram for his name and stuff like that too. So yeah, man, a lot of people when they first heard it, they quickly quickly associated the name Mojo with like a sexual stimulation and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what I got from the track. That's pretty much like what I got from the track right there. So yeah, very dope joint. This is probably my favorite song from the Doors and period. But like the mojo is supposed to represent like a hoodoo charm where it has like alligator teeth, rattlesnake rattles, and so on and so on. So yeah, man. Track number six, "L'America." This was a pretty vintage song from the Doors. You know, a lot of people thought he was talking about LA, but it's also he was talking about Latin America. Instrumentational wise, this is definitely one of the Doors' best albums, best songs, period. Originally, it was supposed to have been for this movie called Zabriskie Point, but the director, who was an Italian dude named Michael Angelo Antonioni, pretty much declined on it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, very dope joint right there. Track number seven, "Hyacinth House." People call me when I'm doing this shit. Hey, bro, let me call you about 2 more seconds, okay?
Hey, what's good, man? Hey, my bad for not calling you, bro. I know I kept up. How many times I saw him call you 2 times, but like I said,
You good? Hey,
I had went to sleep and shit, and then I got up so late yesterday. I had to go to Food Line shop and shit, and
you good?
I just lost track of everything. But yes, today, what time you trying to go?
Around 10 o'clock. Let me call you back because I'm
Oh
actually doing a
shit!
video interview and shit.
All right, perfect. All right, man. I'll call you. I'll talk to you.
Okay, give me 1 second, okay?
All right, bro.
All right.
All right.
I hate when people call me doing my reviews sometimes. But yeah. So next track, Kenneth House. This is pretty much like a real ass song when it comes to the door, cause Jim Morrison was pretty much talking about his emotional state, his physical being around this time too, and then Kenneth pretty much was like a mythological creature in Greek that's supposed to represent unhappiness. So I've always loved how the Doors mix Greek mythology in with their music. I definitely feel like it's very unique. Yeah, man, that's Higher Kenneth House. Check number 8, Crawling King Snake, which was a blues standard first recorded by Big Joe Williams in March 27, 1941, and then later adapted to John Lee Hooker in 1949 and stuff like that. So again, keeping up with the blues tradition, very dope track. Track number 9, The Wasp. Pretty dope song. Not really too much to say. Texas radio is supposed to represent the Mexican radio stations that they were listening to in Texas around this time. A little trivia: this is when they first heard Wolfman Jack, and so y'all don't know who Wolfman Jack is. He was like the host of the Midnight Special. He was the main host of the Midnight Special back in the '70s and stuff like that too. So, and this is pretty much like a spoken word piece by Jim and with John Densmore on the drums. And the last track off this album, Riders on the Storm. This is like the last song off this album that Jim Morrison recorded before he relocated to Paris. It could be seen as an autobiography of Jim Morrison's life, you know what I'm saying? Because he always referred to himself as the Riders of the Storm. So yeah, man, very dope joint right here and stuff like that. I love there's some very prolific lines, like some philosophical lines, like where he says, "Yo, you gotta love your man." That could be a line influencing Pamela and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And I've always considered this track to be like the final, like their final triumph and stuff like that, in my opinion. Because, like I said, Jim Morrison, y'all should know he passed away right after this whole album was recorded in Paris. The details surrounding his death, I mean, to this day, people think it was a drug overdose. People think it was he was murdered. People think he faked his death. I mean, I know this autopsy like a heart attack, but it's like a lot of controversy with that. And so, yeah, man, this was a very nice way to end off this album. And with this whole album, this edition of this album having the two bonus tracks, check out the song Orange County Suite. It's pretty like slow bluesy song. Love this track. That was actually a little trivia about that track. If I'm not mistaken, that was actually recorded with just Morrison by himself. I want to say like in Paris and whatnot, either in Paris or like even 1970. But those editions were not found until after he died and stuff. So, and that's all the time I have for this album. Overall, very good album. I highly recommend this album in my opinion. This album to me, at first I want to say this was my favorite Doors album at first, but then over the years I paid attention to like the Strange Days and the Morrison Hotel. This is probably like my third favorite album from them, But even like in their bad day, like the Soft Parade, which a lot of people say was not good, I still consider that to be an artistic achievement. I mean, with this whole album, they pretty much went back to their roots, went back to the blues with this whole album. Morrison never sounded so fierce and angry, in my opinion. The band's chemistry was just as unique too. So yeah, this album to me must have in your collection. It's a classic classic album. And yeah, this is like the last time because you know Jim Morrison died in '71, like a mere 3 months after this whole album was released. So thank you, Jim Morrison. Thank you, Doors, for bringing us this good music. Definitely had a very good time just breaking down each album from the Doors. I know this album took me like months. 'Cause I know I did Morrison Hotel. I want to say like in September. I just been so busy, you know, throughout this whole fucking year. Semester finally is over, so hopefully by this month I want to keep coming back out with some reviews and some good shit on my channel too. So yeah, must have in your collection, The Doors, L.A. Women. And that's all the time I have. Stay tuned for more. Peace.